Hear that? Yeah, that's the sound of you relaxing, because now you're managing diabetes with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. You get to know your glucose levels and where it's headed. Manage your diabetes with more confidence with the Freestyle Libre 3 system. Ready to learn more about the #1 prescribed CGM in the U.S.? Visit freestylelibre.us to learn more. Based on retail sales data for patients' last filled prescription by manufacturer. Refer to the FLAIR NL4 study published in BMJ Open Diabetes Research and Care 2019. Safety info found at freestylelibre.us.
How do you tell people how special Evan's lamb is, how special his lamb chop is? One way to tell them is by saying it's $50 a plate.
Welcome to Talk Farm to Me. I'm your host, Farm Girl. On Talk Farm to Me, the farmer takes center stage and we find out what they do and how they do it. And no matter how you spend your time, I'm pretty sure you have more in common with farmers than you think. So sit back and relax and I'll bring a farmer, and maybe a cow or two, right into your living room for a chat.
Yes, I'm from Wales, and actually I came over here to set up a business in advertising as a small business, and did that for a few years, didn't enjoy it, and eventually managed to extricate myself from the advertising world. And I always wanted to work for myself.
I was an esthetician or beauty therapist or whatever back then, and did massage and beauty therapy and stuff. I had the nails and the eye makeup.
When Joe and Jackie Evans left London in 1990 for New York, they made 3 promises to their 2 elementary school-age children.
And we were going to get a dog, go and see whale watching, and go to Disney World. So it started off as dogs for the kids.
So I come from a sheep farming area, and most of my relatives are sheep farmers. And so every farm in Wales has at least one, usually 4 or 5 border collies that, either running loose or kept in kennels until they're needed, and then they go out and work. And I used to be dragged by my father to these weird things called sheepdog trials.
Between the age-old parental promise of a dog and the powerful tug of Joe's ancestry, the Evans border collies herded them into a direction they did not anticipate. In order to enter sheepdog trials, the dogs needed training. First, they used ducks, then geese, and finally, they bought the dogs 4 sheep to practice on.
And then we bought another few more, and they had babies. Then we bought a few more, and they had babies. So we left Putnam County in 2014 with 170 sheep.
Now legitimate sheep farmers, Joe and Jackie Evans unwittingly entered an industry of 80,000 farmers raising over 6 million sheep in the United States. It is an industry fraught with issues and blame. Livestock farming is implicated in belching out 1/4 of greenhouse gases. Meat consumption has been under attack since a 1950 study about the perils of sugar spurred lobbyists to vilify meat consumption as a distraction. Modern-day vegans, less than 1% of the population, promote a meat and dairy-free diet, underscoring health and climate concerns as well as animal welfare. Restaurant trends in 2020 reflect this, as plant-based protein tops the menu charts. Joe is very tuned in to the nuances of these complicated issues. He has recently started an email newsletter of sorts that aims to debunk industry myths and to point out how their farm and the meat they produce is different. Joe and Mrs. Sheepfarmer, as he affectionately refers to Jackie, together with their 25-year-old farm manager, Sam Scott, are pioneering new ways to farm sheep. A better way. A way that connects the sheep with the land with the meat, and the meat with an important market that values healthy farms and bringing healthy meat to your table. Here's Joe.
I see ourselves as being in the health business. We believe passionately in doing as much as we can to have healthy soils, healthy forages, healthy animals, so that the consumers, that they can consume healthy food.
The land around here is great for sheep farming. You can't do a whole lot else with it. It's steep and there's the woods and stuff. It's hard
hard to do anything else agriculture related other than graze animals.
Very, very few people, it's probably no more than 2 or 3%, really understand the difference between sheep or cattle that are grazed rotationally and don't need grain, don't need corn, that do benefit the soil enormously through depositing the manure.
Evan's sheep don't stay in any one field for too long. They move through the farm's 107 acres, as well as adjacent rented city lands and the neighbors' hayfields, starting from when the snow melts in early spring through Thanksgiving.
Always seems to be about an acre and a half a day.
So you can't plant anything on this land that we have. Nothing. Hay just about survives, But it's not cropland, it's not arable land, and it's only suitable for pasture. And there's a large body of opinion that says that well-managed pasture through rotational grazing, the type of grazing that we employ, is actually highly beneficial for carbon sequestration, because you're growing more leaves and the leaves stay there throughout the year, and that absorbs CO2 and gets it sequestered in the ground. As long as you don't plough it, it's incredibly beneficial.
On their 107-acre farm that looks like a set straight out of The Sound of Music, Sam and the Evans tend a flock of Katahdin sheep, bred to thrive in the Northeast.
We just want to grow it piece by piece, nothing too dramatic. We've got 344 animals at the moment, so we'll probably have about 200 lambs, hopefully. So we go back up to around 500.
Lambing is a big event. It's like the event of the year, because that's the new generation being born, and they need attention and care, and so that's it, maybe the most intensive part.
From 100 pregnant ewes come close to 200 baby lambs each spring. Approximately 10 of them, or 5%, need some help coming into the world.
A lamb is supposed to be born like Superman, head and front feet first, all together. If you're seeing back feet, it means you need help because it's breech. I've seen a front leg and a back leg. So you've got to push one back in, then hope everybody else comes out in order, the right way round.
Jackie has lambing season down to a science. 3 rams impregnate 100 ewes on a schedule that ensures that all 200 baby lambs are born within a 23-day period.
Sam now is making the jugs, which are the, like private bedrooms for each ewe. It's a little pen with a door, and it has water and food, so she can bond with her lambs there. The mum and the lamb do not make much noise because they're so close. So they have to go to a small nursery, so they learn to call each other. They learn each other's voices. Hi, Mum, I'm over here. Okay, dear, I know, I'm over here. Before they go into the big flock, otherwise they get lost.
Joe and Jackie are super affectionate with the sheep, scratching them on the back or behind the ears when they approach. They often greet them by ear tag number.
Oh, yeah, yes, you are.
Hi, 216.
The ones that were bottle-fed as babies have names.
That's Barry.
Hi, Barry.
You're fat.
Joe is quick to point out a little brindle sheep that was his very own bottle-fed baby last lambing season. Each of the sheep farmers is keenly tuned in to the animals. In an open-air barn filled with clean, dry hay, 100 sheep jockey for position at the biggest bales. I watch them and listen. They're mostly quiet, chewing, relaxed. But Joe and Jackie are circling. They have noticed that one sheep is not feeling up to snuff, and within seconds, they catch her, flip her gently onto her back, and grab the medical kit.
What's the matter?
We've got one that's not looking quite well.
It's a funny dynamic. The sheep are like pets, except that they're not. They receive the best care as a flock and individually. It's a key part of the business. Observation is everything, on a daily basis and also year over year. every detail feeds into the bigger picture.
We keep records of every single lamb, who the mother is, who the father is, characteristics of them and stuff for identification. They all get their number.
We follow the genetics, and it was very helpful because you can then see where problems lie in a gene line. We had problems with a ram because he had very low parasite resistance, and that showed its ugly head last year. Because it was so wet and warm, the parasites were much more vigorous, I suppose you would say.
The Evans noticed their lamb's resistance to parasites was off and ultimately had to downsize their flock from 700 to 500.
It was horrible. It was heartbreaking. It was soul-destroying. But we got through that, and with a clearer mind, we could follow the genetics back.
It's hard work and a hard issue to face, but it means everything to the health of the flock, the farm, and the business.
So he has gone, and we've got these two new ones who've got high parasite resistance. They're ram lambs, so they're first-timers. They're not proven like the other ram that we have.
Evans & Evans Farm is hopeful that the new rams will be productive and will improve the genetics of the flock. The 200 lambs due this spring will be an important new group.
We're trying to get our flock to work with the land. We can change the genetics of the flock. We cannot change the land.
According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, most lambs are harvested at 6 to 8 months. Evans lambs live on the fat of the land for a full 12 months or more. It is important to understand how deep a commitment this is. It means keeping the sheep fed and fat when the ground is covered in snow. To manage this, Joe spends all summer harvesting and storing grasses, labeling their white plastic wraps with what he calls essays about what each bale contains, where it was grown, when it was harvested, every detail. Then he knows what to feed which sheep and when.
It's harder to get weight gain just on grass. It takes longer. Same as grass-fed beef. It just takes longer to get that weight gain.
When lambs near their perfect harvest age and weight, they are called fatties. The Evans feed them the richest grasses so that they do not lose weight over the winter. Cold burns calories, you know.
Yeah, so the fatties, they get special rations and they're fed all the time and they're kept in a nice warm housing because cold really does reduce the growth and take fat off an animal. So we want to keep it on.
I think that's a good dieting tip.
Get out in the cold.
Get out in the cold.
Get out in the cold and eat hay.
Evans lambs and sheep are grass-fed and grass-finished. That means the animals only ever eat two things, mother's milk and grass, period.
That's how I feel all animal agriculture should be. You should feed them what they would eat in a natural setting, which is what we're trying to replicate here. The sheep, and they're eating a majority of grass and clovers and ground-based plants.
The Evans work closely with their customers. Local chefs have been eager to incorporate Evans' pristine lamb and even their more mature sheep as mutton into their menus. But their farm and the way they raise their animals has benefited most from their relationship with storied restaurateur Andrew Tarlow. Andrew is largely credited with transforming Brooklyn's dining scene with his famed restaurants, Diner and Marlow & Sons, and his whole animal butcher shop, Marlow & Daughter. I had the opportunity to sit down with Andrew one morning in his bustling office.
So I own a butcher shop, which, we started because we were really committed to sourcing grass-fed meat and finding out it started with finding out where our beef came from for the restaurants. And it kind of morphed into buying animals in whole form and all these other things. But yeah, we've been buying lamb from Evans, and it gets sent to the butcher shop, and then it gets distributed to the restaurants.
Andrew and his team have spent the past 21 years building on a food movement that revolves around sourcing the best ingredients from the farm and bringing them to the table.
I've always been fascinated with the way things grow. Since opening restaurants and obviously being involved in a direct food system finding the source of the food has been very interesting to me, and seeing farmers work.
Andrew is an artist. He paints daily. He has a literary magazine. He's what I like to call a creator. He has built and sustained successful restaurants. It's all a part of the same process.
In the creative process, you ask questions. How is that cup made? Or why does it look this way? Or why is it shaped that way? Or why is it this color? In the same way, we were sort of asking ourselves, where did this apple come from? How do we get this butter? How do we buy this milk? It's sort of I think a creative spirit, and I think it ties to like asking yourself, like, where does this food come from? We're on a culinary path with our farmers to really get the best thing possible.
Part of that creative process means a frank dialogue between the chefs and the farmers. The chefs in Andrew's restaurants like to experiment and to build on the inherent flavor of their ingredients. They wanted to know, how can we get lamb with intramuscular fat?
We looked into how we could do that, read a lot of papers, found that from a paper in Australia that you can't get intramuscular fat until the lamb has grown properly, the skeleton's at the right mature size. That's when they can start putting on intramuscular fat. We knew we got to the right place and they were happy.
We are also not fearful of having our food have flavor. I think part of having a younger animal is this like tender thing that is like a little less flavorful, really. So yeah, we worked very closely to try and find where that age and harvest date should be. But that came through the chefs and through feedback, and also through his feedback of saying like, this is actually the right time.
Andrew is different. He's successful for sure. His first restaurant diner, now in its third decade, is always packed. But he's more than that. He cares. He recognizes the symbiotic relationship that we have with one another. It's as simple as that bumper sticker you've seen whizzing down the highway. No farms, no food. Andrew wants to play a part in allowing farms to do their best.
I don't think people think about the holisticness and realize that like a farmer is connected to these businesses. You should be in service to them, because they're the ones who are actually working really hard to actually support you.
Andrew struggles on how to tell his customers about the farms and the farmers they work with. It's a tricky balance. What's the right way? A sign? A poster? He cringes. He's definitely into talking about it. Talking with me. Yes. Talking with you in the restaurant. Every chance he gets.
And we, as a restaurant, are pushing our prices all the time up. And it's probably perceived from the outside world because we want to get rich, but it's really because we are trying to give that money back to someone like Evan. So if we can actually figure out how to tell that story better, it's a huge win for us. But it's something that I think about and we like struggle with and trying to always figure out. How do you tell people how special Evan's lamb is, how special his lamb chop is? One way to tell them is by saying it's $50 a plate, right? And then having them give you a whole lot of pushback, and then you say, well, it's because of this and because of this and because of this.
Joe credits Andrew Tarlow with making their farm.
I mean, Andrew Tarlow just really drove our bus in the direction that we've gone in, because we hadn't thought of selling whole carcasses to the foodie market in New York City. But it came to us, thankfully, and through the quality of the product, I assume that, it's stayed with us and we're very happy.
He's also made our business. We're connected, right? We need him as much as he needs us.
While the slinking black and white border collies are partially to blame, Mr. and Mrs. Sheepfarmer are in deep. Together with Sam, they manage every detail, address every concern that may cast a shadow over their business, hover over every blade of grass, and attend to the specific care of each and every sheep for the good of the flock. Their goals are numerous: healthy land, healthy sheep, healthy meat, happy customers, and a really delicious product.
I eat his lamb all the time at home, probably like twice a week, and it is always outstanding. It's the best thing I ever eat at home. It's so good.
Up next on Talk Farm to Me, we'll find out whether lobster has anything to worry about as a particular fish angles for a place at the dinner table. It's been great to have you along for this episode of Talk Farm to Me. Special thanks always to our farmers for talking farm and doing what they do best. For more information about this episode, including a look behind the scenes, head on over to talkfarmtome.com. This season's music is by Lobo Loco. You can find more episodes as they come out on talkfarmtome.com or subscribe to the whole season wherever you get your podcasts. Either way, please share your feedback right on the website or give us some love on iTunes. I'm your host, Farm Girl. Stay tuned for a new episode every 2 weeks when I bring a new farmer and maybe a cow or two right into your living room for a chat.